Hi everyone! Just a really quick miniature make today. So I've taken a little break from making my wooden doll's house furniture to work on a miniature rug. Now I don't actually need a miniature rug right now because I don't really have any furniture in the doll's house apartment, but it was my monthly knit and stitch group, so I wanted to do something textiles based. So I decided to take my needle punching kit with me to Dunelm, where we go to our knit and stitch group, and I wanted to make this miniature rug to either go into the bedroom area of the miniature apartment or the living area below. So if you're new to my channel, I'm currently transforming a doll's house that's 12th scale into a converted warehouse with a miniature apartment at the bottom. An art gallery at the bottom, a miniature art gallery at the bottom, and a miniature apartment above. And in the last video, I just made a set of stairs combined with a bookcase, and in future videos I'm going to be making a little kitchen, a little bed, everything that needs to go into the doll's house. So if that's something that you enjoy and you're not subscribed, please do follow along, because I do have a playlist where I will be saving each step of the makeover, and it's also got all the previous videos to watch as well. So thank you to everybody that does tune in to watch. It means the world to me, and I absolutely love reading all of your comments, and all of the advice that people give me is so helpful, so thank you so much for watching. So to make this rug, I was using the needle punching technique. Now I'm not an expert at needle punching. This is probably about the third or fourth time that I've done it, but I do really enjoy it because you can see the progress that you're making quite quickly. Now, I did find that when I was working with this orange wool, the process was quite easy, but when I switched to the other colour of wool, it didn't work quite so well. And I think that this was because the wool that's the lighter colour is a little bit thinner. And so I think that the fabric that I'm using as a base has a weave that's not quite tight enough to hold each sort of stitch in place. So if anybody is watching this video who likes doing needle punching or punch needling, please do let me know if you have any advice about what sort of fabric to use as the base and what sort of thickness of wool is the best one to use. Thank you. Now when it comes to doing this craft, I have found that threading the needle is one of the most difficult parts, but I have developed my own little technique which works really well for me, and it involves using a piece of wire to make a needle threader, and then I loop the wool through the piece of wire and pull it all the way through the needle, and then I pull it up through this section here. If anybody would like me to make a short little video that explains how I thread my needle, that shows it a little bit more clearly, then please do let me know in the comments, because I don't mind doing that, because the thread's got to come all the way through the needle and up through this little bit here. And if the wool's quite thick, it can be quite difficult to thread. So yeah, please let me know in the comments if you would like me to make a short little video just to show my technique for threading the needle. Now this is the wool that I mentioned doesn't work quite as well. So I found that as I was doing some of the stitches, the wool was starting to unravel. And I do think it's that the wool was maybe a little bit too thin for the size of the weave of the fabric. So I did find that doing slightly smaller stitches was helpful. So it was working here, but then can you just see there it popped back out? That's what kept happening. But I found that if I did slightly smaller stitches, it worked a little bit better. As you can see, I'd moved back home by this point, so I hadn't quite finished this at my knit and stitch group, so I continued it when I got home with the company of my lovely cat. So here you can see the smaller stitches that I'd started to do. At this point I felt like I'd finished, because I didn't want to go all the way to the edges because I thought the rug would be a little bit too big for my doll's house. So my next step was to trim the fabric and then stitch around this edge so that it was nice and neat. But as you can see, this was looking very, very thick, and for a 12th scale doll's house I didn't think this would look quite right. Now, I'm not an expert on this at all, but I thought I would experiment and see if I could just trim away some of this wool. And this is behind the rug, this is on the back of it. This was a real risk because I didn't know if trimming these loops would mean that the wool would then just pull straight through the other side and unravel. But I had to do something because the rug was definitely too thick to use at this point. So I trimmed away the wool at the back and it seemed to work, thankfully. It didn't unravel. So if you're doing something similar, I wouldn't copy that if I were you, because I think there probably is quite a high chance of it unravelling and that I was maybe just quite lucky. So I then stitched all the way around the edge using the same wool that I had used for the needle punching. And this is what it was looking like. I really felt like it was starting to take shape, but after removing some of the wool on the back, it was sitting a little bit unevenly and it was still a little bit too thick for my 12th scale apartment. So I decided to try and iron it a little bit more flat. I was kind of hoping that it would make the fibres of the wool lay a little bit closer together to reduce the thickness of the rug. I was using a piece of greaseproof paper because I didn't want the wool to stick to my iron. I wasn't sure what type of wool it was, so yeah, I didn't want to risk damaging the rug or the iron. Straight away I found that ironing really helped. It helped to flatten down the fibres and it made the rug a lot thinner. Once I felt like it was completely ironed, I decided to leave it to cool because I felt like if I moved it and it wasn't laid completely flat whilst it was cooling off, it might change shape a little bit. But this is how it looked once it was cool and I was really pleased with it. It could maybe do to be lined on the back to make it a bit neater, but I don't want to add any more thickness, so I'm going to leave it as it is. And now I've got a decision to make. So I would love your opinions on this. I don't know whether this is a rug that should go into the bedroom, which will be on this mezzanine area. Obviously this will be dependent on the furniture that I build to go around it, because the bed will probably have to go over the rug. Or it might go in the living area here, and again I'll have to think about whether I want a sofa to go over the rug or the television table. So yeah, let me know what you think. I'd really love to know your opinions. I hope that you've enjoyed just this short little video today, and I will see you next time. Thanks so much for watching and I hope you have a lovely day.